Hello. I hope that you're all having a good day. Glad you're here. I'm Markel Brown. And usually we have a group of us directors speaking from all the women's programs, and we talk about the general conference talks and how those apply to our lives and how they help us with mental health. And today, I'm going to be talking specifically about the Daughters of Light program. And, so if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out, or you can ask questions in the comments. And I've got a link that you can scan that QR code to look at the Daughters of Light page. And I actually lead one of the groups for the Daughters of Light. There's also the Sisters of Promise, which those are for young women who are on missions. And the Daughters of Light program is really amazing. I really appreciate it a lot. We do have goals that we invite the girls to set. Goals are really important. First of all, we're learning how to connect with God every day, and we're learning how to connect with ourselves. And one area of focus for the Daughters of Light program is to be in tune with what we're feeling and what we're thinking, and being able to discern those thoughts quicker and faster. And it is always eye-opening to see how far removed people are from their emotions. And I worked with a young woman yesterday, and, just asking, what are you feeling? It took a while to decide, okay, what am I feeling? And then, where are you feeling that in your body? And there was just a disconnect there. That wasn't happening. And that's okay. And this is a skill we develop. And sadly in life, we do a lot of disconnecting, minimizing, coping, numbing out because there's a lot of pain, and we don't know how to navigate some of the problems and challenges and difficult interactions that come our way. And so that is where we disconnect. So learning the skill of, okay, what am I feeling, is super important. And validating that, like, we are humans. We're humans that feel. And, I have very good parents. And I did grow up in the era that, stop crying or I'm going to give you something to cry about, right? And I'm really grateful that people are inviting to be more in tune with, okay, what are you feeling? And that takes practice, as well as discerning our thoughts. Really, if we think about it, as I think, so I feel, those thoughts come before the feelings, and that leads to what we do, as well as what we have, right? So if we're wanting to find more peace and happiness and joy and motivation, and that's not happening for us, then we need to take a look at those thoughts. What are those thoughts that are becoming a roadblock, making us doubt ourselves or procrastinate or hesitate? And what can we do to navigate those? And so in the Daughters of Light program, we do have a feelings check. And that's where we get to talk about a situation from the week or a circumstance where we were totally flooded with emotions and triggered. And, it's usually thoughts and emotions. And what are those intrusive thoughts that made us doubt ourselves and really forget who we are? There's this huge war between remembering and forgetting, remembering that we are a daughter of God. We're talking about Daughters of Light, and that we are important, we're cherished, we're loved. And if we're not around safe people, a lot of times we don't feel cherished or loved. And it can be really difficult, and we can really start to doubt ourselves. And so we have a really great book too, and she did stand in her truth. And we talk a lot about armor and weapons, and what are our armor and weapons. And one of them are the power goals: prayer, write, read, praying, learning to pray anytime, anywhere, and just at first establishing a routine of reaching up to the Lord and connecting, which will help us to reach out to others. It'll also help us to connect and be more in tune with ourselves. And this is a skill we have to develop. Anybody that's tried to pray or read your scriptures, there's usually something that tries to get in the way, and we forget. Or we're just like, oh, I'll do it later. Or like, forget it, I'm not doing that today, right? That sometimes happens to me if I'm super tired and I've waited all day and I just like, I'm so tired. So I've actually moved my scripture studies to earlier in the day. And one thing that's really great is we can just push play and listen where we're going. I'm going on a walk, and I want to show you, we've got a journal. And one of the main areas of focus in the Daughters of Light program is this transcendence process. A lot of times we're wanting to go from where we are to where we want to be. And we sometimes, or a lot of times, don't know how to do that. And so this is where we are learning tools and resources to develop skills, and to develop skills that takes practice to help us to go from where we are to where we want to be. And that helps us with this transcendence process, which is becoming a new creature, becoming a disciple of Christ. And that's changing from where we're at right now into who we are becoming. And this takes a lot of work and a lot of practice. And we like to use a tool called the DPARD, the Divine Pattern of Growth: Discover, Plan, Act, Reflect. And we utilize that a lot of discovering. Okay, what are you feeling? And okay, what are those thoughts? And how is it getting in the way of what you're wanting to do? And okay, what's my plan? So with this Discover, Plan, Act, Reflect, it helps us to be able to take tiny steps to be able to move forward as we're progressing in life. So the other thing that I just want to say, I just really love working with the young women, the young girls. And you might be asking, okay, well, what are the ages of Girls and Daughters of Light? And also, I just want to mention the QR code that I have up in the corner right now is for the story, And She Did Stand in Her Truth. And again, I'm going to talk about the beauty of being in a group. This is where you've got a safe place where you're learning things to help you to go from where you are to where you want to be. The girls support one another and they encourage one another, and they are learning that they're not the only one going through hard things. They are all going through hard things. And a lot of times, one of those satanic attacks is that you're all alone. Nobody else is having this problem. What's wrong with you? There's something wrong with you. You're broken. Or you're this, that, or the other. And so it's really helpful when we can hear the other women, young women, share their struggles, as well as, okay, this helped me. And this support for one another really helps to strengthen them. And the lesson that we had this week in the Daughters of Light was on purposeful connection and the importance of connection, reaching up to God and reaching out to those that are safe. Hopefully your family members or some of your family members are safe. Hopefully you have some safe friends. And this purposeful connection helps us so we don't feel like we're alone. Although sometimes we did talk about, we do have to step away. We have to walk away. I need to get myself regrounded. I've got to tune in to what's going on with me, get regrounded, refocused, and replenish ourselves with self-care, so that we can be able to get up and try again. And this takes practice. And they're also, the young women are learning to reconnect and connect with one another in the group. And so this really helps to establish more trust with themselves as well as with others. And it's really a beautiful experience to watch these young women as they are connecting, they're supporting one another, they're relating. You know, we've had a lot of young women that have experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of opposition, whether that's from other people around them bullying them or just the torment in their head with all the thoughts and the emotions. And sometimes they come in very quiet, very distant, not doing a lot of talking. And over time, it's just a beautiful experience to watch them blossom and feel safe and share and laugh about different situations and have each other's back. Like, no, you don't want to do that. No, no, no. And it's really great. And so, you know, working with the young women and women, we get to see those satanic attacks that happen, you know, I think really at any age. You know, body image is a huge challenge for young women, definitely, as their bodies change from these little girls into these women bodies. And as I was talking with a teenager a while back, I said, what if there was one thing that you would wish that people talked about more, you know, as a teenager, what would it be? And she said, how much my body is going to change going from that little girl into a teenager. Like, nobody talks about that. And, you know, I was thinking about that. I'm like, you know, I mean, we talk about it a little bit, I guess, as it's happening, but not so much before. And it would be great preparation, right? There is a lot of transitions, you know, through those teenage years, all those hormone shifts and trying to navigate that and the emotions that come with it. And then trying to fit in with your friends and be accepted. And there's a lot of rejection or fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of I'm not enough. And it is really helpful to gather more of those tools and resources to know how to navigate those things. And we talk a lot about the chemical scale. You know, we want to be at a 0 where we're grounded, we're focused, we're in the zone, we're feeling good, our best self, we're motivated. And then the level 1 is we're feeling off. Sometimes we don't even know why we're feeling off, or we're a little irritated, or we're just tired, or sometimes we just woke up feeling blah. I always hate that one. It's like, okay, one of the tools that I like is, okay, today is going to be a great day. Yes. We can kind of have a brain hack there to help. Okay, I'm going to redirect my brain. I woke up feeling really horrible, and today is going to be a great day. And just saying that actually helps your brain throughout the day start to search for how is today a great day. And it really does boost your mood, and it'll shift your whole day. So I'd invite you to try that. So we've got that level 0, we're in the zone. Level 1, we're just feeling off. Level 2, we're flooded with emotions usually. And that's where we're noticing, okay, what are we feeling? We want to name it, validate it. Okay, what would I like to feel instead? And then find something to do to be able to shift from those charged emotions to, okay, I want to feel more motivated, peaceful, calm. Also noticing at that level 2, what are those intrusive thoughts? The lies, looking for the lies. We don't have to believe every stupid thought that comes into our brain. And we can, when we can notice it quicker and faster, we can redirect it quicker and faster. And then again, restoring what is true. Or so we notice the lie, name it, flip it to what is true. Sometimes there is half truth. We can validate that. And then this is still a lie. So what is true? What are my intentions? And then what can I do? So I want to share my screen here, because we have another tool in the Daughters of Light program, and it is called the maze. And I really like this tool a lot. And this is something, again, where we're learning to discern, what am I feeling? What is going on with me, so that I can discern quicker and faster. So as I just mentioned, the chemical scale, we're really trying to tune in to, okay, what am I feeling? And where am I feeling that in my body? And also when the daughters or the young women join the Daughters of Light, they actually also will have the maze in their journal. Let's see, so I've got the journal right here, and the maze of darkness is right here. All right, so the very first part of the maze is when this lap. You got that little comical character down there at the bottom. And this is usually where we are starting to notice those intrusive thoughts, or maybe we haven't noticed them yet. Like, I'm not enough, or dang it, I messed up again, or I can never do anything right. As children and teenagers, and guess what, even as adults, when we're really trying hard to learn something and we're growing and we're developing and we're just not getting it, it's pretty frustrating. I will say it really is pretty frustrating. And you can feel pretty defeated, especially if you are getting that experience over and over and over again. And so one of the things that we are learning is how to be resilient with all the tools, that war between remembering and forgetting. We do a lot of work with identity statement, remembering who we are and learning to cherish ourselves and notice our gifts and talents and anchor into that and anchor to God. And when we can identify when we've just been slapped into the maze, okay, you're all alone, you're fat, you're ugly, you have too curly of hair, you have too straight of hair, I don't like my eyes, I don't like my nose, I don't have any friends, or none of my friends like me. And I would say many times there are friends and we're just feeling like nobody likes me, because those are those intrusive thoughts, that satanic attack. So we want to be able to notice when we've been slapped into the maze and notice those thoughts, because that's part of that satanic spin. So the maze does have 4 phases, as you can see in this graphic here. The second phase is the stupefy. I like to play a little clip from Harry Potter where Hermione does her stupefy spell on, I think it's Ron, and he's knocked back and he's like in this daze. And so this is when we're knocked off balance. We're not thinking clearly at that time. Our brain is slower. And we like to use a hand model by Dan Siegel. Demonstrates, 3 important parts of the brain. So if I put my hand up, my thumb here is like the limbic system, that fight, flight, animal brain, where we're just reacting. We're not acting. We're not thinking. And then we curl our fingers around, and this front part is the prefrontal cortex, and then back is the brainstem, right? And so many of the tools and resources that we utilize are helping us to get back into this prefrontal cortex, our thinking brain, so we can discern quicker and faster. We have better judgment. We can stop. So it's that inhibitory control, stop, and before we just spout off with words or just do something that we're like, whoa, why did I even do that? Because we were in that animal brain, not thinking. So we're in that prefrontal cortex thinking brain. We can also regulate our emotions. We can think clear. And this takes a lot of practice. And when we think about the youth, science now is showing that brain development for that prefrontal cortex, our thinking brain, logic and reason, it is not fully developed for females up to 25 years old, and for men up to 28. That's like, wow. And, we're saying, okay, 18-year adult, 21, you're an adult, and that brain development is still in process. And so This is where teens really need guidance, they need support, they need education. And this is why it is important to have parents. So if when you're being a good parent and you're like helping to be a guide for your youth, that is good, because their prefrontal cortex is not developed yet, and sometimes they don't have very good judgment, and it's kind of like they forgot. It's kind of interesting, watching them go into those teenage modes, and it's like, whoa, like you were thinking quite a bit before and now not quite as much. So parents, hang in there and just know that this is why we have parents and we have guides, is because we do need guidance and direction in our youth. And as you keep praying, that's going to help you to be able to guide them. So, all right, let me go back to this, the maze, which is one of our tools. And we've been spending quite a bit of time on this over the past month in the Daughters of Light, because this can really help when they notice where they're at. And this paralysis, where I talked about that stupefy, where we're not really thinking clearly, we're not fully in that prefrontal cortex, and our emotions are off. Well, when we get into that paralysis, it's like we're numb and we're really in that animal brain, flooded with chemicals, and we lose access to that self-awareness. And so there are 9 functions of the prefrontal cortex. We've got this fear modulation. So again, being able to regulate our emotions, and you can see these over on that right-hand side of that slide. Being able to regulate our body and our emotions, which is, that do part, and that reaction part that happens when we're not thinking. And it's like, whoa, why did I do that? I wasn't thinking. We're learning how to act to no matter what shows up, which means that we have got to have self-mastery over our body and what we're spouting out with our mouth. The prefrontal cortex, here's my little hand model of the brain, and those fingers, that front part, is the prefrontal cortex. This is where we can have empathy. If you've ever noticed somebody that's really in a rage or flooded, or they're just totally shut down, they spout off and will say really hurtful things. They are not in their prefrontal cortex, and they are not connected to empathy, which is where they're listening and caring and thinking about others. And prefrontal cortex helps to regulate emotions, helps with our intuition, being able to feel the spirit. If we're flooded with emotions and those chemicals flooding our brain, it's difficult for us to feel the spirit. We are more in tune with morality and making good moral choices, staying within our values and acting versus reacting. We know when we're in that animal brain, which is that center part of our brain, we are just really in that animal behavior mode. And so if that prefrontal cortex is offline and there's that temptation there, and then that morality can often, be compromised because they're just not thinking. They're not tuning into their judgment and their discernment and their values. So again, all of the tools that we learn in the Daughters of Light program are to help us to be able to get back into that prefrontal cortex and go, okay, wait, what do I value? How do I want to act? What's important to me? And another area of that prefrontal cortex development is self-awareness, which is one of the reasons why in the Daughters of Light program we spend so much time on a feelings check. What are you feeling? Where are you feeling that in your body? So we can be self-aware. We've got to be able to be in tune with what we're feeling and what we're thinking. And that takes practice. These are all skills we're developing there. And then attuned communication. So that purposeful connection, right? And if we are working on purposeful connection, reaching up to God, reaching out to others, making sure we have safety in the home, safe friends, safe communities, And that's why groups are so important, because we are working on attuning and having more uplifting communication, and how do we encourage one another and support one another and just hold the space when somebody's sharing something super hard that they don't know how to deal with, and they're here to learn and have help and be loved no matter what choices they've made and what struggles they're going through. And then response flexibility. Like, we've probably all been in that place where it's like, we're just like, I am not budging, you hurt me, and I'm never talking to you again, right? We've heard kids say that a lot. That's not being very flexible in that moment. Little kids, no, right? So in the Daughters of Light, since we are working with the teens and young adults, that is learning that emotional regulation, how to have flexibility with our responses, learning to act versus reacting, learning to make better decisions as that prefrontal cortex is developing. And the prefrontal cortex, again, knowing that it's 25 for females and 28 for males, that brain is still developing, takes a lot of practice. It's a lot of, okay, what tools can I practice today? Power goals, prayer, write, read are really great tools to help strengthen that prefrontal cortex, get us in tune with us, in tune with God, be able to have better judgment, better discernment, more empathy, be more in tune with our emotions. And also identity statements. The youth have some, great identity statements that they can use with their young men and young women mottos. That is actually not the correct word. That word just left my mind. I haven't been in young women's for a long time, and I do have many daughters, and so we talk about it, but for some reason that has left my mind in this moment. So creating an identity statement and remembering who they are, really celebrating, learning to celebrate yourself, and talking and interacting and sharing. And so the Daughters of Light group is just really an amazing place for your daughter, if she were to need support, to find that support, learn tools and resources to develop skills, as well as work on discovering herself more. And if you would like to reach out to learn any more about the Daughters of Light program and see if this might be something that would benefit your daughter, I'd be happy to talk with you. My consultation link is up there in the corner. And I'm going to talk about that fourth phase in the maze, and that's the proof. That's where we're looking for the evidence of why everything is horrible, or maybe, or not. Or we could talk about the evidence of why somebody should act out versus why they shouldn't. And when you get clear backed in the corner of that maze, if you notice, the maze only has one way out. And all the tools that we use are to help people to get out of that maze. It's really great if we can catch ourselves when we're first slapped in the maze and knocked off balance. Sometimes that step 1 and 2 go pretty fast. Slapped into the maze, we're off balance. Okay, if we can discern that quicker and faster, we can get out of the maze quicker and faster. Using the tools, noticing what we're feeling, it, naming it, validating it, flipping it to, okay, what do I want to feel? Noticing the intrusive thoughts that are usually coming first. We just don't recognize them first. For me, if I'm really feeling off or flooded, I'm like, okay, wait, what are the thoughts? I'm like, stop, Markel. You got to take a break here for a minute. What's going on? And notice the thoughts and name it. And ask, is that 100% true? No. Flip to what is true and find something to do. Now, I will say, also with that, noticing the intrusive thoughts and naming it. It might be like, they really did hurt me and I'm just feeling horrible. That is true. And then it's like, okay, well, now what can I do? What is my plan? If we can make a plan when we are not flooded and we're not charged with all these emotions, that's going to help us to be able to move through those quicker and faster and to neutralize that attack. So, all these tools, how to regulate emotions, how to navigate the intrusive thoughts, how to restore truth, how to get regrounded and anchored who we are, how to notice these tactics, like of these aspects of the maze, and what we can do to get out, reaching up, reaching out, because Satan likes us to be isolated. When we reach up to God for support, knowing we can't do this alone, we reach out to others, helps us to jump over those walls in that maze and work our way out. And the more that these are practiced and implemented, you can catch yourself quicker and faster. And when you have a plan, that helps you to be prepared. Also helps you when you're feeling scared. Okay, I've already created a plan. Let me just put this plan into action. It'll help you to be successful. So please reach out if you have a young woman who is struggling and needing help. And we would love to be a part of her journey and support her and help her to gather those tools and resources to help her to gain that strength. And we still have, for some, a couple of months of summer, for some, a month and a half. It's a good time to start gathering those tools to be prepared for the school year. So they are equipped with more tools to navigate all the challenges, whether it's friend drama, whether it's the overwhelm of all the schoolwork and the procrastination or the pressure, like you have to get everything perfect, or if it's sports, where they, are under a lot of pressure or just not feeling like they're good enough. They've had some trauma. We're here to help, and you all have a great day, and we will see you all next week. All right. Bye-bye.